Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Saturday, September 20th, 2025. And I'll tell you what a night of football last night. Oof. If you're an AFL supporter like me, holy shit, what a night. Just under 100,000 people at the mighty MCG to see the Cats beat the Hawks. Today is the Magpies and the Lions to see who plays the Cats in the grand final. And of course NRL on as well. I don't really follow NRL, but of course I'm behind the mighty Melbourne Storm. Love this time of year, especially preliminary final weekend. Just awesome. And I do envy the supporters of clubs like Geelong and Collingwood and Hawthorn and Brisbane, I suppose, are all in the preliminary finals because they seem to be around the mark every single year. And us poor old Blue supporters, up for 1 year, down for 10. That seems to be the trend of the Blue Baggers. But anyway, we've cleaned out half the club, so hopefully next year we have a bit of a rise. All right, on this day, back in 1972, Muhammad Ali stopped Floyd Patterson in the 7th round to retain the world heavyweight title. I think that was the rematch, actually. A couple other things, just looking at the 1996, Pernell Whitaker defended his world welterweight title by defeating Puerto Rico's Wilfredo Rivera on points. And let's just say 2014, I'm just picking out some here because there's a few that you probably don't really want to hear about. Carlos Quadros, the super flyweight great, drew with Jose Salgado in Sinaloa, Mexico. That was on this day. All right, well, it's been a big week as far as a few things goes. Of course, we've had the Tszyu announcement parting from his team. We've had the Liam Paro fight. We've had the fallout of Canelo and Crawford. And I suppose the big question is, we'll start with Tszyu. And obviously lots have been said in the last couple of days, and everyone's got an opinion and everyone's got a theory and all this sort of stuff. But I watched yesterday an interview with Jeff Fennick on, I can't remember what podcast it was. You'll know the one I'm talking about. He's pretty active on the other guys. You know, what was his name? Anyway, it doesn't matter. And I've been waiting for it because Jeff, of course, said the other day that if he was in the corner of Tszyu when he fought Sebastian Fundora, he would have won. And on top of that, said if they fought 10 times, that Jeff would get him to beat Fundora 10 times. And I suppose the only question that didn't come up on the podcast was him saying, well, would you be interested in training Tszyu? I don't know whether there was something said beforehand or not, but Jeff, as always, was pretty outspoken. He stood by all his comments, and he made a few remarks that did make a lot of sense. I know these days Jeff does divide a few people in his opinions, but I love the fact that he just tells it the way it is. And yeah, I don't agree with absolutely everything he says, but doesn't matter. It's his opinion, and I value it. The main thing is that Jeff is in a very, very good position to say whatever the hell he wants, and you have to listen, whether you agree with it or not. He's been there and done that, and knows the boxing industry inside and out. So if he says it, I'm going to take it on board. And again, whether I agree with him or not doesn't really matter. Although in this day and age, not agreeing with someone gets you in a bit of trouble, doesn't it? As we've seen last week. But yeah, I really like what Jeff had to say. He didn't hold back. He stood by his previous remarks about Tim's team. Didn't call them a bunch of clowns this time, but he still had his say. And I was surprised, though, that he sort of went at Glenn Jennings a little bit, because I would have thought that he would know Glenn pretty well. And he said, oh, look, he's just got to remember, guys, he wasn't Costa's manager. He was just his head of his security. And that is correct, by the way. I think with some people have been under the impression that Glenn was Costa's manager, but I think apart from being his head of security, I think he was more of an advisor and a friend, a confidant, whatever you might want to call it. So he did have a fair bit to say, but Vlad Wharton was his manager and promoter back in the day, Costa. It didn't really lay the boots into Igor, but I think he was just sort of saying, hey, he needs to change trainers, and this is a good call from Tim. The thing that did sort of make me, I won't say do a double take, but just really listen intently, because he made a good point about going to America. Now, Tim is very adamant about going to America. I know some people are throwing up someone like an Andy Lee as a trainer or someone like that, but I don't think he goes to the UK. I don't think that's what he wants to do. I think he's a USA man, and I don't think going to the UK would hold any appeal to him whatsoever. But Jeff made a good point in that he said that he 100% agrees with everything he's done, but he doesn't think he should go to America unless he has the right people behind him. And what he means by that is over there in the gyms, I've seen it firsthand, you go over there and if you're not represented or have someone looking out for you and representing you, whatever it is, you can pretty much get chewed up and spat out. And someone like Tim over there walking into a gym, yeah, he'll get some good sparring, but there'll be no trying to help him out. They'll have all these guys trying to make a reputation for himself and trying to iron him out because being a former world champion. So Jeff's pretty onto all that sort of stuff. And again, he's been there and done that. So I think we have to listen to that statement from him and take it on board. But he just said, look, if he gets the right trainer, if he gets the right manager, just if he gets the team right around him, then okay, then maybe the US will be the way to go. But he did say, even if that was the case, he's going to go over there and he's going to have all these fighters in the gyms all trying to take him out, not help him. They're going to try and take him out to make a reputation for himself. And they do take personally a little bit sometimes. We'll call them the interlopers, the overseas fighters coming into their territories. And whether you're from overseas or just from another gym, boxers in gyms are very territorial. They really are. And especially someone like Tim with a name from Australia, all that sort of stuff, he'd have a target on him. Don't worry about that. So I think what Jeff was saying is even if he did have the right team around him, that maybe just start here for starters, because over there, well, Jeff did say he thinks that Tim needs to get his confidence back and work on some things and get his head right and be comfortable with his team and all that sort of stuff. And going over to the gyms in America and having these guys just want to take you out is probably not the best thing for someone who's trying to not only get the confidence back, but also probably put in place or implement the stuff they've been learning with a new trainer. So his advice was to stay here for a little bit. You could maybe go over there and do some training over there with the new trainer, but then maybe come out here and maybe select a few sparring partners to fly out here and be based here. Now, I know that goes against what a lot of people have said. No, you've got to get to America. You've got to get over. That's where it's all at. And you're not going to learn anything here, and you're in your own little comfy little surroundings. Yeah, and that is correct. But I think you've got to take it for the point of your career you're at. And I think where Tim's at the moment, I agree with Jeff that just get out of the bubble for a while. Well, not really get out of the bubble. Get into a new bubble. Get out of the whole American system and everything, and just get into a small little bubble with your team around you and just work on some stuff, get a couple of easy kills, and then you're away. I think that's more what he's getting at, because again, Jeff's been there and done that, and he knows what he's talking about. So, but yeah, I mean, as I said, Jeff always has really good things to say, and but again, he didn't actually ask him, would you be interested? I don't think that would be the case, although this probably goes against the grain a little bit. I think Jeff Bennett would be a good choice for a trainer. Now, Jeff gets a lot of flack as far as being a trainer. Everyone loves him as a fighter, but as I said before, he can divide a few people in different ways. But the only criticism I've probably had of Jeff with his fighters is he tries to get them to fight like him, and you can't fight like Jeff Bennett because he fought just a very particular way and could get away with it. Other fighters that have tried to fight the same way have been knocked out, including his own fighter in Brock Jarvis. So that's probably the only criticism that I would have of Jeff. However, if and I think he sort of touched on it in the interview, that he said, look, Tim doesn't need to change a lot, but he needs to change a couple of things urgently. So if it was just a matter of Tim going to Jeff, I'm just sort of trying to put it in the view here how it would probably work, that if Tim went to Jeff, I think it would be maybe working on a few things like Jeff's been very vocal about, his defence, his what other stuff has he sort of been saying? Well, mainly his defence, head movement, all this sort of stuff. So that's probably the stuff he would probably work on, and more so just be a very inexperienced person in his corner, and not taking any shit from anybody, and realising we're the A side and you're going to abide by our rules, not sort of what has seemed to be the other way around, where Team Tszyu has sort of just fit in with everyone else over there. I mean, I'm not there, I don't know, but that's the perception I get anyway. But as far as being a motivator, as far as being someone, as I said, that doesn't take shit from anybody, getting Tim up, really getting him motivated, getting him super fit and hard and everything else, maybe Jeff could be that guy. Now, the question would probably come, well, that's okay, but how does he go tactically during a fight? And when things aren't going his way, is he able to change things up? Well, I think he could. I think he could, because what I've seen from Igor in the corner, this is Uncle Igor, and I don't want to continue to just look like I'm laying the boots in the Igor. I'm just sort of saying what I see. And Jeff said it himself, is that during the fight, there's not really any, well, this is not working, so do this. All right, this is not working, let's try, plan A is not working, let's go to plan B. And we need to tweak a few things as we go in the ring. Where we haven't seen that with Igor, it's pretty much get him back, wash his mouth guard. And I do speak in Russian, by the way, so I'm not 100% sure, but it just looks that way. It's get him back to the corner, give him a drink, wash his mouth guard, give him a pat on the back and send him back out. That seems to be what happens in the corner. So again, I don't know if that's 100% right, but I'm just looking, even though I can't understand what he's saying, the body language and everything in there doesn't seem to be a lot coming Tim's way. And it's just a matter of, well, we did it in camp, we got you fit, you know, you made weight, now the rest is up to you type of thing. So that is where maybe someone like Jeff could be a bit more motivating and changing and really get up him. And, you know, as far as like, Tim, dude, you know, you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to change this. And that would be Jeff, because that's one thing he's good at. But again, my only criticism was with Jeff is that with his fighters, they tend to be sort of little models of him, and that's not going to work with someone like Tim. So, but if he was right and just said, look, we just need to tweak a few things and change the training up and everything else, well, maybe Jeff could be the guy. But he didn't, as I said, put his hand up. He's just stating his case. I think if it was put to Jeff, I think he would take it in 2 seconds flat. 1 second flat, actually. I think he would love to get his hands on Tim Tszyu. But anyway, Tim, again, I don't think Tim will go down that track. I think he's going to go to one of the big trainers in the States. And I really think someone like an Abel Sanchez would be great. Hasn't been really amongst it for a little while, though. I know he's got fighters. He had a fighter on the Canelo and Crawford card the other day. But whether he's still the guy, I suppose, that he was when he had Triple G, well, you don't unlearn anything, do you? So you probably tend to evolve. I'm thinking left field like a Brian McIntyre, though I don't think that will be the case. Robert Garcia's name's been thrown up as well. Lots of different trainers, but I suppose I was going to say Tim and his team will be looking at the right option, but he hasn't got a team anymore. I would probably think that maybe the manager might be the first point of call. I don't know, and then the trainer. And then you can add everything else around that. I mean, there's plenty of cut men and all that around. Go get Stitch Duran in your corner. One of the best in the business, Stitch, and he's a character as well and so experienced. I know he works in the Maloney boys' corners, so he could be someone he could get. But anyway, I'm sure he'll put all the pieces together and have another crack at it. But then, of course, what does he do once he actually gets his team in place as far as career goes? I just hope he doesn't go for a big fight straight off. I don't think he will, because if he has a trainer and manager worth of salt, I think they would be saying, hey, let's just put the reins on a little bit, pull the reins and just be methodical about this. I know he's 30 years old. I think he's probably still got a good sort of 5 or 6 years in him, Tim. Well, at least 5 years anyway. So he has got a little bit of time. He's already been at the top. He's going to get opportunities, so there's no worries about that. So why not take a year just to settle in, and then at 31 years of age, go hard again and maybe get a good sort of 4 or 5 years out of you after that and earn some big money, be in big fights. You know, that's potentially 7, 8, 9 big fights you could be in. So he's not done, but I was asked a few times not just on the show the other night, but on different, on these videos and just messages I've got, do I think he can actually come back? If I'm being 100% completely honest, I'm going to say no. And you know me on here, I always tell it the way it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I might rant and rave and swear and carry on, but I'm going to say it the way it is and be honest. I don't think so. I think one is that he's not as good as maybe a lot of people hoped and thought he was, and that's just fact. Nothing wrong with that. He's always turned up. He's been a great ambassador for Australian boxing. He's put Australian boxing on the map. Big, massive fights here. He's got the whole country up and about when he's fought overseas, so it's nothing about that. I just don't think, firstly, that he's got the ability and tools that maybe we thought he did. So that's probably the first one. And then it's those mental scars. Not so much the first Fundora fight, although he's actually got a physical scar from that. But the scars, especially from the Murtazaliev fight, we did see it, I think, in my opinion, in the Fundora fight. Just the way he was reacting to punches coming at him against Fundora. In the past, before Murtazaliev knocked him out, even under fire, he would be okay. He'd take some shots, but he didn't seem to be rattled or phased. He would just roll with the punches and defend and whatever he had to do. But I saw in that second Fundora fight, when he was under attack, the eyes wide open, as they say, almost like a deer in the headlights sort of thing, and was really almost panicking under the fire from Fundora. And that, for me, is PTSD from the Murtazaliev fight, because I reckon that fight really knocked him around, mentally, physically, whatever you might want to call it, but especially mentally. You know what it reminded me of? And I know it's only a movie. It reminded me of Rocky 3 when he gets absolutely clobbered by Clubber Lang. He did come back and win the rematch, so you never know. That could be a bit of an omen, but that's what it reminded me of. And that's the sort of look in his eyes that I thought. And maybe he has had the Rocky moment, in front of the mirror, when he looks at himself and says, "What are you?" And, well, he doesn't say it, but you can see he's thinking it in the mirror. He's looking at himself in the mirror and banging the mirror. Maybe that's what Tim's done behind closed doors. But the body language and everything when he was under pressure and under fire from Fundora, for me, didn't bode well for me as far as his mental state, as far as being in the ring. And also, obviously, the way he fought Fundora didn't give him much either. But that's probably why I don't think he can get back, because, again, I don't think he's as good as we thought he was. The PTSD from Murtazaliev, and also that, he's going to come up against all those killers at some stage. 154 pounds is probably one of the best divisions in boxing. And I just don't think he's at the level. I mean, we did see on the week, or last weekend, whatever it was, that, we all thought Bolchuk was going to be one of the main guys coming forward. He got beat again. Thurman might beat Fundora, and we might get Fundora. I think that would be the best case scenario for me, for Tim. That if Thurman beats Fundora, he wants to fight Tszyu. I don't think he will, and the only reason I think is because he'll say to Tim, "Well, you stuffed me around last year. You left me in limbo and went and fought Fundora, and now I'm going to do the same to you." That's what I think what will happen with Thurman and Tszyu, unless Tim, of course, has a couple of good wins in the meantime. The PBC want him to fight Thurman. Obviously not going to fight Fundora again. So I just think his options are limited. Maybe there's 160, but geez, at 160 he's got Janabek, he's got Lara, he's got Adames. Not an easy division either. So I'm not sure. I really hope he does come back. And again, I applaud what he's done on this occasion with his team. But will it be enough? My personal thoughts are no. I don't think it'll be enough. I think he'll probably he'll improve. He'll work on some stuff with the trainer. I think we might see some really good little tweaks to his style and everything else. But at 30 years of age, can you actually learn enough to make a difference in your career in those big fights? And I'm sure he'll fight the Joey Spencers of the world and look great. The big test, of course, will come against those killers in the division, the Ortizes and those types of guys, if he fights those guys, that is. So lots to go under, water to go under the bridge for Tszyu. But I tell you what, though, on top of everything else, no matter what happens, even if he doesn't make it, he doesn't get back, he doesn't win another world title, doesn't even maybe get another or win another big fight, I still think in his mind he'll say, you know what, I did what I had to do and it didn't work out and I can live with it. I think he would have had more regrets if he didn't make any changes and it didn't work for him down the track. I think he would live with regret for the rest of his life. I think at least now he's made the call, he's done what he and everyone else thinks he should do and change teams. And if it doesn't work, at least he can say, well, you know what, I tried, I just couldn't get it done. I think he could live with that. So that's the Tszyu situation. And then, of course, you've got Canelo and Crawford. What's next for them? I think for Crawford, it's pretty much, just my opinion, Canelo or nothing. He has nothing to prove. And at this stage, he's going to just want a big fight or maybe two big fights, whatever it might be. He just wants the biggest money, the biggest fights for the biggest money. That's all he wants. And who's the other biggest name in the sport? It is Canelo Alvarez. So I think we might get a Canelo Crawford too. You look at Canelo, I mean, we did say it about Bivol, did he try and avenge it? But he didn't. I think that's a bit different because he went up to light heavyweight and thought, yeah, nah, the real elite's at 175, no thanks. But at least with Crawford, he knows, it's not an issue of weight. He's just got to try and figure out that style. Now, does he win again? Probably not. I don't think so. But I think that is the best call for both guys. And I just don't think, I know they're talking about this ridiculous notions of fighting Benavides and this sort of stuff. I mean, that is just the worst thing that Crawford would do. And I don't think, I was really glad when Bomac, his trainer, just dismissed it straight off the bat. He said, nah, not interested in that. And yeah, there'll be the boxing journalists and the boxing fans will say he's a duck and he's a fraud and all this sort of stuff. Come on. All right, I understand the Canelo argument, but he doesn't need to fight Benavides. First of all, Benavides is a light heavyweight, okay? He's 175 pounds. So, and he's not ranked at super middleweight, so why are we even talking about him? But bad fight for Crawford. I mean, this is a guy who is just way too small. And he'd probably still beat Benavides, by the way, but why does he need it at this stage of his career? He's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport. He's got all the clout. He doesn't need to fight Benavides. Let him go to up to cruiserweight, whatever he's going to do. Forget about Benavides. But that's really about it for both guys. I mean, Canelo's probably got a few more options. He could maybe, I know they were talking about even going up to cruiserweight himself the other day, which I don't think will happen. I don't know. I just, again, looked at Canelo in the post-fight interview and he looked like a fighter that was content, had done enough, wasn't that stressed about it all. So you got to think about his hunger in the sport. He doesn't need guys like Benavides and Beterbiev and Bivol and those types of guys. I think he'll go for the rematch, and I think Turki Al-Sheikh will want the rematch as well. So that's probably my tip for what's next for both guys. Again, with Crawford, he's going to go back next time and he can go to Turki Al-Sheikh and say, well, I'll fight him again, but none of this 50 million bullshit. I want 100. And Canelo, he'd probably take 100 as well if they share 200 million. It'll probably be a 50-50 split, as should be expected of the champion who won the fight clearly. So that's what I think would be the best option for both guys, especially Crawford. Fight Canelo again. You'll probably beat him, no problems again. Pocket $100 million and then be done. I do think he'll 100% fight again, though. It has been talked that he might even retire. I don't think so. I think he's got way too much left to retire. So that's for him. And as I said, Canelo's probably got a couple of more options, but geez, why wouldn't you go back for another 100 million versus Crawford, even if you do lose? If he loses to him again, then retire. Be done with it. Because at this stage of their careers, it's all about the cash. It's what it's all about. So anyway, they will make the call. All right, guys, that's probably going to do it for today. I had a couple other things I'll talk about, but I'll save them. I was probably going to do my updated pound-for-pound list as well, so I might do that tomorrow or the next day, whatever. We'll have a chat about it. But in the meantime, guys, enjoy the day. It looks like it's going to be nice and sunny and the little bit warmer than the last couple of days. And if you're watching the footy, have a great day or night as well. So, all right, guys, we will catch you tomorrow.